one of our province's most colorful premiers has died. Ralph Klein passed away early this morning, surrounded by family and friends at a Calgary care centre. Klein has been battling lung disease and dementia. His political career started when he became a disenchanted Calgary City Hall reporter and thought he could do better. He was elected mayor in 1980 and spent the next 9 years seeing Calgary through the boom and bust of the decade. In 1989, he ran for and won the provincial seat of Calgary Elbow in Don Getty's government. 3 years later, he became Conservative Party leader and went on to win the next 3 elections before finally stepping down in 2007. Now, Albertans would probably use a lot of words to describe Klein: outlandish, funny, maybe some that aren't as flattering. Tonight, however, friends of the late premier are sharing another side of him, using words like caring and generous, a man who hoped Albertans would love him as much as he loved them. Here's Chris Epp on Klein's outside the political ring.
He was unapologetic, brash, and outspoken. But those close to Ralph Klein say he had a side the public rarely saw.
Ralph was quite shy, I think would probably surprise a lot of people. I remember one time we walked into a Mac's to probably buy a pack of smokes. Not that Ralph bought a lot of smokes, but he was a notorious bummer. But the fellow behind the counter said to him, "Boy, you sure look like Ralph Klein." And Ralph just simply said back, "Yeah, I get that a lot."
Alan Hallman was one of the people who recruited Klein to the Tory party and managed all his campaigns. He says despite Klein's brash demeanor, he was extremely sensitive to the personal consequences of his political decisions.
And I remember when we were going through the 90s and the restructuring of government, how Ralph would not sleep well at nights. Ralph was tossing and turning, and he was tossing and turning about the Martha and Henrys of the world that he always referred to. But the restructuring of government was going to cost some jobs, and that was a huge concern and a huge weight on Ralph.
Friends say during his brief time outside the public eye, Klein became more introspective, more spiritual, especially when forced to face his own mortality.
When you know that you are not doing well, that life could end at some point, you certainly start to talk about eternity and am I ready and what will happen after I die, and he had those natural questions.
Matheson got to know Klein in his final years. He says the former premier enjoyed discussing God and life after death, but as his illness stole his ability to speak, he often simply asked to pray.
Last week when I was there, he took his hand out of the blankets and grabbed hold of my hand and just held on very tightly. It was a very special moment, and we prayed together.
Friends say the proof of how down-to-earth the popular premier really was could be found at home. Married to the same person, living in the same house for 4 decades, Klein never lost touch with where he came from. Chris Epp, CTV News, Calgary.
A public celebration of life will be held to honor Klein. However, his family has said they do not wish for a state funeral to be held. More details will be shared as arrangements are made. Now, even though we were aware the former premier's health was declining, his death has still shocked and saddened many southern Albertans.
Well, I think that's a sad day for Alberta. He certainly gave a lot of himself, and our province really benefited by his leadership.
Because he was just, I don't know, just because he was such a great guy.
It's a sad day. It's a sad day for Alberta. I'm not really sure if I'm 100% a Klein fan, but he did do a lot for Alberta. He did a lot for the city of Calgary, too.
I'm sad, but he wasn't well, and we all know that. But well, that's too bad.
King Ralph was really good for our province and did a lot of great things as a Conservative leader, so it's tragic.
Condolence books will be set up across the province for Albertans to pay their respects. But some southern Albertans are already honoring our former premier on social media. On our Facebook page, Sherry wrote, "Very sad, sad day. Thoughts and prayers to his family. There will never be another like him." Buzz added, "Too bad. I thought as a premier he was a super guy. Even with all the cutbacks, he was the one that got us out of debt. Thanks, King Ralph, for a job well done." Crystal thought, "It's too bad he didn't teach a class on how to be a fantastic premier." Tanya says, "Rest in peace, Ralph. You were a good man who did great things for our province. You are now pain-free. Star with the Eagles." While Leon wrote, "I'm shocked and saddened. They don't make them like that anymore." Andre simply added, "Long live King Ralph." The province has set up an online book of condolences, and we've created a link for it on the CTV Calgary website.